Hello. I am once again struggling from the worst setup in the world disease. But I'm here. Hold up. Hello everyone, it's me, Puppet Lera. Welcome to the spookiest night ever. Totally real. This is not a history book about Vikings. This is real scary stories right in front of me. Hello. Hold on. I'm trying to put on BGM with my left hand and it's not working. Haha, I did it. Hello everyone. Let me be further away so you can see me. Hello everyone, it's me, Spooky Puppet Lera. The scariest part is what time does to me slowly. I feel like every time I appear on camera, I look a little bit more bad. Slowly dissolving, you know how it is. They should be taking better care of me, but nobody listens. Anyways, hello everyone. Hello Loon, hello Alex, hello Zone, hello Lane, hello Fox, hello Zephan. How is everybody doing? Hello Ben, happy Halloween. Okay, so you can't see my beautiful lights. Lower them. My beautiful lights. Why did I put them there for if you can't see? Just shining in your face. Just want to help me. You don't understand. My setup is so fucked up. But it's okay. We got this. Can you guys hear the BGM? Is there BGM? Is it working? You're looking extra spooky. Yeah, I mean, my eye is still falling out, but you know how it is. I'm so excited for this episode of Tales from the Pond. I just start telling you the most ridiculous Twilight Zone level shit. Like fucking Night Springs, or whatever it is that they call it in Alan Wake. Who's ready for Lera to read spooky stories while her hat is on fire for excuse me, Lisa, first of all, don't put spooky in brackets like it's not gonna be spooky, because it's gonna be very spooky. And second of all, it's fine. Today the position of my hand is like okay. Hopefully. But I didn't eat a manga today, nice. Perfectly in spirit of Halloween. Hello, Minami. Puppet Veva, I have a scary story for you. Oh yeah, what is it? Hello, Doctor. Happy Halloween. One true Lera. Okay, none of that is true. The Lera Spider-Verse would like to argue about that. I'm very spooked right now, for real. I haven't even started yet. You can't already be spooked. Are you spooked by my setup? Yeah, that is truly a nightmare. I mean, what is going on here exactly? It's like this boob, this random black cloth behind me. The duck lamp is just kind of completely out of it. He's not even... Like, mentally, he's not here. He's just, like, staring into the distance absently. It's okay, guys. We got this. Hello, and, the Lera Spider-Verse, I mean the Lera-verse, it's the same thing. Bro is dissociating, yeah, and he's good at it. You are spooked nice. Good to hear. I wish I had some pumpkins, but I do not. I didn't find any Halloween decorations. I'm not actually a Halloween person, believe it or not. Like, at all. There was once a Lera at 1 AM who took your kidneys in exchange for money. You do not speak to Lera past 1 AM. Don't do it. It will only end badly. 1 AM Lera is the scariest thing. So, how should we do this? Okay, so I have 4 stories, but they're like fairly long. They're not like super long, but I think they're gonna take around half an hour, 20 minutes each. And, you know, I don't want to read too much because my throat is going to die if I do that. Honestly, I'm probably gonna get tired after 2. Let's be for real. It's not 4 hours. It's like maybe 2 hours max. I don't know if I'm gonna read like all of them. How should we do this? Because I have like never done this before, so I actually don't know how to do this. Like, should we just like read a whole story, no breaks, and then after that I can finally talk? Or like what? Probably you don't want breaks in between these because like they're short and you probably don't want like there to be a pause, right? They're not. I'm just gonna read Howard's End. Halloween month powers me for the whole year, really. I'm not like, we don't really do Halloween where I'm from. I'm pretty sure they like attempted banning it at some point. So I don't know. I don't have a lot of like Halloween spirit. Same with Christmas spirit. We don't do Christmas either. So like most of like the mainstream celebrations around here, I'm just like, yep. I don't know what's going on, but you know, I gotta do it for the content. I think it would be weird if you pause randomly one story and see how you're feeling afterwards. Okay. So the stories I have selected. Okay, so I have read some recommendations that people gave me. And I attempted reading some creepypastas that people also gave me. And I was like, man, because I have never read creepypastas before in my life, alright? And I tried reading them, and I was like, wow, these are really cringe. And I was like, wow. Tevia. It's me, Puppet Lera. So, I was like, okay, what the fuck do I read that's not like written by a teenager, you know? Like, and then I remembered that Edgar Allan Poe exists, and I was like, oh my god, that's right, I've read his stories before. They had very nice vibes, and they were like, you know, not too scary and really cool. So this is okay. So today we are reading the creepypastas before creepypastas, okay, children? Alright, children, this is how people got scared of things before the internet, okay? This is how this is how people were spooked before creepypastas. So we have 2 stories by Allan Poe, and then we have one Charles Dickens story, and then there's one random ass story that I found on the internet that nobody recommended, but I read it, and I was like, you know what, this sounds interesting. It has a lot of typos, even though it seems to be like properly published, so I don't know how they let that slide, but it has like multiple parts where it confuses H with a B, so like it writes, instead of he, it writes B and shit like that. I don't know why, okay? Do not ask me how this happened, but apparently nobody proofread whatever this is, so we have that. Creepypastas from the 1800s, exactly. What about Lovecraft? No, sorry, we just have these 4 today. Maybe next year. But yeah, I thought Allan Poe is a classic and we could read some. A face reveal, yep, exactly. Exactly what is happening right now. Precisely. And there's fireworks outside. It's okay, that's just gonna add to the extra spook. It's okay. So yeah, anyways. Which one should we start with? They are all like equally long. I think they're like all around 10 pages long. Well, actually no, I think the Poe stories are shorter. But the other 2 are like around 10 pages long or something like that, so they're not overly long or anything. Okay, just a fair warning though. They're not super scary, right? They're more dark than scary, I would say personally. But if you're afraid of English words being pronounced wrong, that's gonna happen. I even looked up some of these words and I listened to the thingy that's like, this is how you pronounce it. And I was like, okay, this is how I pronounce it. And then I forgot, so I still do not know how to pronounce it. Okay. Maybe a Poe story. Okay, so we have The Telltale Heart. And we have The Mask of Red Death. Which one? Ah, no, it's so scary. I think maybe let's start with Telltale Heart. I really like that one, actually. I remember The Mask of Red Death, like, really scared me for some reason. When I read it for the first time when I was, like, 12. But it's actually not that scary today when I reread it. The true scariest thing about this stream, yeah, bad pronunciation and just me not being able to read in general. You know, I'm not a good reader. I think that's, like, really obvious. I'm not used to reading out loud. And I'm dyslexic, probably, so... This is gonna be an interesting experience. I might have read that Red Death in school before. Yeah, it's quite good. But I actually really like, I think the Telltale Heart might be my favorite, but I don't know. It's been like ages since I properly read a collection of his stories. So these are like the two that I could like kind of vividly remember. Okay, well let's start with the Telltale Heart. And I'm eating my hair today for dinner. Oh my god, help. Help. Okay. This is totally the book that I'm reading, by the way. It's like right here in front of me. Alright, I am starting now, everybody. Get ready for my shit-ass reading. The Telltale Heart by Edgar Allan Poe. Hell yeah. Oh god, where is it? Hold up! I got it. I got it. A hand from above. Yeah, it's my assistant, don't worry about it. Duckult is covering it though, it's okay. It's okay, I can still read it, don't worry. Slay. Okay. Shut up! I'm trying to read! She speaks to absolutely nobody in the room. True. Nervous. Very, very dreadfully nervous. I had been and am. But why will you say that I am mad? The disease had sharpened my senses, not destroyed, not dulled them. Above all was the sense of hearing acute. I heard all things in the heaven and in the earth. I heard many things in hell. How then am I mad? Hearken and observe how healthily, how calmly I can tell you the whole story. It is impossible to say how first the idea entered my brain, but once conceived, it haunted me day and night. Object there was none, passion there was none. I loved the old man. He had never wronged me. He had never given me insult. For his gold I had no desire. I think it was his eye. Yes, it was this. One of his eyes resembled that of a vulture, a pale blue eye with a film over it. Whenever it fell upon me, my blood ran cold, and so by degrees, very gradually, I made up my mind to take the life of the old man, and thus rid myself of the eye forever. Dun dun dun. There's somebody's behind you. Yeah, it's your mom. Don't interrupt me. Now, this is the point. You fancy me mad. Madmen know nothing. But you should have seen me. You should have seen how wisely I proceeded, with what caution, with what foresight, with what dissimulation I went to work. I was never kinder to the old man than during the whole week before I killed him. And every night, about midnight, I turned the latch of his door and opened it. Oh, so gently. And then, when I had made an opening sufficient for my head, I put in a dark lantern, all closed, so that no light shone out, and then I thrust in my head. Oh, you would have laughed to see how cunningly I thrust it in. I moved it slowly, very slowly, so that I might not disturb the old man's sleep. It took me an hour to place my whole head within the opening, so far that I could see him as he lay upon his bed. Huh! Would a madman have been so wise as this? And then, when my head was well in the room, I undid the lantern cautiously. Oh, so cautiously, for the hinges creaked. I undid it just so much that a single thin ray fell upon the vulture eye. And this I did for 7 long nights, every night just at midnight. But I found the eye always closed, and so it was impossible to do the work, for it was not the old man who vexed me, but his evil eye. And every morning, when the day broke, I went boldly into the chamber and spoke courageously to him, calling him by name in a hearty tone, and inquiring how he had passed the night. So you see, he would have been a very profound old man, indeed, to suspect that every night, just at 12, I looked in upon him while he slept. Upon the 8th night, I was more than usually cautious in opening the door. I watched his minute hands moves more quickly than did mine. Never before that night had I felt the extent of my own powers, of my sagacity. I could scarcely contain my feelings of triumph, to think that there I was opening the door little by little, and he not even to dream of my secret deeds or thoughts. I fairly chuckled at the idea, and perhaps he heard me, for he moved on the bed suddenly, as if startled. Now you may think that I drew back, but no. His room was as black as pitch with the thick darkness, for the shutters were close fastened, through fear of robbers, and so I knew that he would not see the opening of the door, and I kept pushing it on steadily. I had my head in and was about to open the lantern when my thumb slipped upon the tin fastening, and the old man sprang up in the bed, crying out, "Who's there?" I kept quite still and said nothing. For a whole hour I did not move a muscle, and in the meantime I did not hear him lie down. He was still sitting up in the bed, listening, just as I have done, night after night, hearkening to the death watches in the wall. Presently, I heard a slight groan, and I knew it was the groan of mortal terror. It was not a groan of pain or grief, or no, it was the low, stifled sound that arises from the bottom of the soul when overcharged with awe. I knew the sound well. Many a night... Oh my god, I lost the line. Oh wait, I found it. Many a night, just at midnight, when all the world slept, it has welled up from my own bosom, deepening with its dreadful echo. The terrors that distracted me. I say I knew it well. I knew what the old man felt, and pitied him, although I chuckled at heart. I knew that he had been lying awake ever since the first slight noise, when he had turned in the bed. His fears had been ever since growing upon him. He had been trying to fancy them causeless, but could not. He had been saying to himself, "It is nothing but the wind in the chimney. It is only a mouse crossing the floor, or it is merely a cricket which has made a single chirp." Yes, he has been trying to comfort himself with these suppositions. But he had found all in vain. All in vain, because death, in approaching him, had stalked with his black shadow before him, and enveloped the victim. And it was the mournful influence of the unperceived shadow that caused him to feel, although he neither saw nor heard, to feel the presence of my head within the room. POV, you're a paralysis demon. Oh my god. When I had waited a long time, very patiently, without hearing him lie down, I resolved to open a very, very little crevice in the lantern. So I opened it. You cannot imagine how stealthily, until at length a single dim ray, like the thread of the spider, shot from out the crevice and fell upon the vulture eye. It was open, wide open, and I grew furious as I gazed upon it. I saw it with perfect distinctness, all a dull blue with a hideous veil over it that chilled the very marrow in my bones. But I could see nothing else of the old man's face or person, for I had directed the ray, as if by instinct, precisely upon the damned spot. And now have I not told you that Was you mistake for madness? Is but over acuteness of the senses? Now, I say, there came to my ears a low, dull, quick sound, such as a watch makes when enveloped in cotton. I knew that sound well, too. It was the beating of the old man's heart. It increased my fury, as the beating of a drum stimulates the soldier into courage. But even yet, I refrained and kept still. I scarcely breathed. I held the lantern motionless. I tried how steadily I could maintain the ray upon the eye. Meantime, the hellish tattoo of the heart increased. It grew quicker and louder every instant. The old man's terror must have been extreme. It grew louder, I say, louder every moment. Do you mark me well? I have told you that I am nervous. So I am. And now, at the dead hour of the night, amid the dreadful silence of that old house, so strange a noise as this excited me to uncontrollable terror. Yet for some minutes longer I refrained and stood still, but the beating grew louder, louder. I thought the heart must burst. And now a new anxiety seized me. The sound would be heard by a neighbor. The old man's hour had come. With a loud yell, I threw open the lantern and leaped into the room. He shrieked once only. In an instant, I dragged him to the floor and pulled the heavy bed over him. I then smiled gaily to find the deed so far done. But for many minutes, the heart beat on with a muffled sound. This, however, did not vex me. It would not be heard through the wall. At length it ceased. The old man was dead. I removed the bed and examined the corpse. Yes, he was stone dead. I placed my hand upon the heart and held it there many minutes. There was no pulsation. He was stone dead. His eye would trouble me no more. If you still think me mad, you will think so no longer when I describe the wise precautions I took for the concealment of the body. The night waned and I worked hastily, but in silence. First of all, I dismembered the corpse. I cut off the head and the arms and the legs. I then took up 3 planks from the flooring of the chamber and deposited all between the scantlings. I then replaced the boards so cleverly, so cunningly, that no human eye, not even his, could have detected anything wrong. There was nothing to wash out, no stain of any kind, no blood spot whatever. I had been too wary of that. A tap had caught all. Haha. When I had made an end of these labors, it was 4 o'clock, still dark as midnight. As the bell sounded the hour, there came a knocking at the street door. I went down to open it with a light heart, for what had I now to fear? There entered 3 men who introduced themselves with perfect suavity as officers of the police. A shriek had been heard by a neighbor during the night. Suspicious of foul play had been aroused. Information had been lodged at the police office, and they, the officers, had been deputed to search the premises. I smiled, for what had I to fear? I bade the gentleman welcome. The shriek, I said, was my own in a dream. The old man I mentioned was absent in the country. I took my visitors all over the house. I bade them search well. I led them at length to his chamber. I showed them his treasures, secure, undisturbed. In the enthusiasm of my confidence, I brought chairs into the room and desired them here to rest from their fatigues, while I myself, in the wild audacity of my perfect triumph, placed my own seat upon the very spot beneath which reposed the corpse of the victim. The officers were satisfied. My manner had convinced them. I was singularly at ease. They sat, and while I answered cheerily, they chatted of familiar things. But ere long, I felt myself getting pale and wished them gone. My head ached, and I fancied a ringing in my ears. But still they sat and still chatted. The ringing became more distinct. It continued and became more distinct. I talked more freely to get rid of the feeling, but it continued and gained definitiveness. Until, at length, I found that the noise was not within my ears. No doubt, I now grew very pale. But I talked more fluently and with a heightened voice, yet the sound increased, and what could I do? It was a low, dull, quick sound. Much such a sound as a watch makes when enveloped in cotton. I gasped for breath, and yet the officers heard it not. I talked more quickly, more vehemently. But the noise steadily increased. I arose and argued about trifles in a high key and with violent gesticulations. But the noise steadily increased. Why would they not be gone? I paced the floor to and fro with heavy strides, as if excited to fury by the observations of the man. But the noise steadily increased. Oh God, what could I do? I foamed, I raved, I swore, I swung the chair upon which I had been sitting, and grated it upon the boards. But the noise arose over all continually increased. It grew louder, louder, louder. And still the man chatted pleasantly and smiled. Was it possible they heard not? Almighty God, no, no, they heard, they suspected, they knew. They were making a mockery of my horror. This I thought, and this I think. But anything was better than this agony. Anything was more tolerable than this derision. I could bear those hypocritical smiles no longer. I felt that I must scream or die. And now, again, hark, louder, 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 louder. Villains, I shrieked. Dissemble no more. I admit the deed. Tear up the planks. Here, here. It is the beating of his hideous heart. Ta-da! Immediately dies. Spooky stories to fall asleep to. Okay, how many words did I mispronounce? I think that wasn't so bad. I only messed up like in 3 places. Maybe more actually, I don't know. Hevo Sok, by the way, and Hevo Boris. I don't know who else came in. I have no idea, I'm so sorry. Okay, let me just... Gotta admit I was pretty good, thank you. It's a good story. I think this is like one of my favorites from Paul. Oh my god, I gotta, hold on, I gotta like shake my hand, you know? Imagine this story from the cop's perspective, and the guy just had suddenly a mental breakdown out of nowhere. 73 words, you're lying. How long did that take me? Not too long, right? Maybe like 20 minutes? I'm pretty sure. So yeah, it wasn't a very long story. I think I heard minute being pronounced as minute. What do you mean? What does that mean? You can't just spell the word. About 20 minutes. Okay, cool. There you go. So we can... I think they're all like around 20 to 30 minutes long. So that's not so bad. There's a mention of spider in this story. There is? I don't know. I wasn't even like fully processing what the fuck I was reading, bro. That club is me right now. Look how sane I am. Something as sane people definitely did. I know, right? Like, Ohevo Alemi as well. I love how confident this guy is. He's like, no, I'm not crazy. Like, would a crazy person do this? Kills an old man because he looked at him funny. No, but would a crazy person hide the body and, you know, like, sever the head and the arms and then hide it in the floor planks? Like, what was his long-term strategy? What was his long-term strategy there? I'm back, by the way. Hello. Like, what was he gonna do after? Because the body was gonna, like, rot in there, you know? Like, what exactly was he gonna do? What was gonna happen when they discovered the man is missing? Like, I don't know, like... I don't think he fought this through as well as he thought he did. He was like, yeah. I totally got a plan. Doesn't have a plan. Oh my god. And then he literally gave himself away. He was like, oh, like the guilt. The guilt got to him so bad. Like, yeah, he literally didn't like survive like one night without just like, I think he just wanted to brag about it. He's like the Death Note guy, you know? The Death Note guy just like he did it for the attention. Just a wee bit crazy rookie mistake. Okay, so we got this one out of the way. Now, should we read Charles Dickens next? Another Poe story, or this random ass story I found? The random ass story I found is so fucking weird. I just thought it was like really fucking weird. It's like low-key funny. It's kind of like sci-fi as well, sort of. It's really strange. Here, Dickens. Shut up. Random ass story. I mean, you're just sitting alone in a dark room talking to people through a monitor who may or may not be real with a puppet. You're definitely not crazy. I'm not crazy. You're crazy. Yeah, I think Poe is like, I think he like makes like really kind of like good, just like very atmospheric stuff. Okay, let me see. Let's read the really random ass story I found. I feel like you guys are gonna be like you guys are gonna be like, Lera, where did you find this? On a random website. It says 1950. Was this really written in 1950? Wow, they were really thinking ahead. How did they come up with this technology in 1950? This can't be true. Saturday Evening Post, 1950. And they left. Maybe that's why it has all these typos. If they couldn't just like rewrite it. They were like, nah, whatever, man, just leave it. They did proofread it. It was just too much effort to rewrite it at that point, so they just left it. Oh my god. Imagine a 19th century person witnesses you talking to a rectangle. Oh my god. No, I feel like stories like this, I feel like it doesn't come off as that scary. Maybe like in, you know, like the modern days. But stuff like this must have been like really shocking and like terrifying. Back when it was weird. I think it's still like a very strong kind of creepy, but you know, like I don't know, like I don't remember the last time my room was actually pitch black to the point where I cannot see anything. But I feel like it is like a proper fear and like kind of dread that you can get from like older times like this, right? Because all you have is a lantern, and then it's like, you know, it's pitch black outside, and then you have like those shadows on your windows, and you actually cannot see, and you have someone could be standing in your room and you wouldn't fucking know. So creepy. I say that and sip some tea. The fear of the unknown. Yeah, true. They're all crazy. Great. Maybe we can all be in one mental asylum together one day, guys. How cool would that be? Duckult IRL meetup at the mental asylum. Hell yeah. The street light gets everywhere in likely countryside. Yeah, I feel like that's because it's never fucking dark in my room. The other day I woke up and the neighbor that's like across from me had their fucking lights on at 4 a.m. and it was getting through my blind, and I was like, why the fuck does my neighbor have the lights on at 4 a.m.? Like, I woke up and I saw it through my window and I was like, what the fuck are you doing? Stop it! It's 4 a.m. Turn it off! Hello, Gerardo. Story time or spooky story? It's spooky story time. You here in the rubber room? What a coincidence. Mental asylum besties. Yeah, we're gonna be cell neighbors. How cool would that be? Gamer neighbor. It's literally the kitchen though. A rubber room with ducks. With rubber ducks. Alright, I will now read this really fucked up story from the 1950s, apparently. I don't know how they came up with this shit. I thought it was modern, but now when I'm looking at this, I'm like, oh, okay then. It's called the Veldte. The Veldte. Wait, how do you pronounce this word? Veld. V-E-L-D-T. How do you fucking say this shit? I fucking hate it here. Veld. It's pronounced Veld. No, it's not the valet. The Veld. You will laugh how much this word is used here. Apparently it's what they call... No, it's not felt! It's a real... Guys, come on. It's what they call, grassland in Africa. It's called veld. This might be like an old spelling, maybe. I don't know. But it's called veld. And it's what grassland landscapes in Africa are called. Okay, guys? It's not velvet! Guys, remember this information because this is literally going to be coming up the entire story, so yeah. Welcome to this nightmare that is learning English words. It's not velvet! It's veld! Wait, hold up. Let me, like, put the pronunciation.
Velt.
Velt! Okay, guys? This is what Google says. I believe them. Google? When did Google ever fucking lie to me? Belt? Stop! It's not belt! Blame the Dutch. Oh, the veld. They have a lot of that in South Africa. There you go, the veld! See, it's real! I think. Anyways, the story. Who wrote this? Is there an author? Ray Bradbury. There you go, I found it. Oh yeah, let me drink some more tea because I was like holding back a cough during the previous story. This is going so well. Veld. Stop! Leave me alone. I don't know English! George, I wish you'd look at the nursery. What's wrong with it? I don't know. Well then, I just want you to look at it, is all. Or call a psychologist to look at it. What would a psychologist want of a nursery? You know very well what he'd want. His wife paused in the middle of the kitchen and watched the stove busy humming to itself, making supper for 4. It's just that the nursery is different now than it was. Alright, let's have a look. They walked down the hall of their soundproofed Happy Life home, which had cost them $30,000 installed. This house, which clothed and fed and rocked them to sleep and played and sang, was good for them. Their approach synthesized a switch somewhere, and the nursery light flicked on when they came within 10 feet of it. Similarly, behind them, in the halls, lights went on and off as they left them behind, with a soft automaticity. Well, said George Hadley. You know this story? Nice. They stood on the thatched floor of the nursery. It was 40 feet across by 40 feet long and 30 feet high. It had cost half again as much as the rest of the house. But nothing's too good for our children, George had said. The nursery was silent. It was empty as a jungle glade at high noon. The walls were blank and two-dimensional. Now, as George and Lydia Hadley stood in the center of the room, the walls began to purr and recede into crystalline distance. It seemed, and presently, an African veld appeared. In 3 dimensions on all sides, in color reproduced to the final pebble and bit of straw. The ceiling above them became a deep sky with a hot yellow sun. George Hadley felt the Perspiration started on his brow. I can read. "Let's get out of the sun," he said. "This is a little too real, but I don't see anything wrong." "Wait a moment, you'll see," said his wife. Now the hidden odorophonics were beginning to blow a wind of odor at the two people in the middle of the baked wetland. The hot straw smell of lion grass, the cool green smell of the hidden waterhole, the great rusty smell of animals, the smell of dust like a red paprika in the hot air. And now the sounds, the thump of distant antelope feet on grassy sod, the papery rustling of vultures. A shadow passed through the sky. The shadow flickered on George Hadley's upturned, sweating face. "Filthy creatures," he heard his wife say. "The vultures. You see, there are the lions, far over that way. Now, they're on their way to the waterhole. They've just been eating," said Lydia. "I don't know what. Some animal." George Hadley put his hand up to shield off the burning light from his squinted eyes. "A zebra or a baby giraffe, maybe." "Are you sure?" His wife sounded peculiarly tense. "No, it's a little late to be sure," he said, amused. "Nothing over there I can see but cleaned bone and the vultures dropping for what's left." "Did you hear that scream?" she asked. "No." "About a minute ago." "Sorry, no." The lions were coming, and again George Hadley was filled with admiration for the mechanical genius who had conceived this room. A miracle of efficiency, selling for an abruptly low price. Every home should have one. Oh, occasionally they frightened you with their clinical accuracy. They startled you, gave you a twinkle. But most of the time, what fun for everyone, not only your own son and daughter, but for yourself when you felt like a quick jaunt to a foreign land, a quick change of scenery. Well, here it was. And here were the lions now, 15 feet away, so real, so feverishly and startlingly real, but you could feel the prickling fur on your hand, and your mouth was stuffed with the dusty upholstery smell of their heated pelts, and the yellow of them was in your eyes like the yellow of an exquisite French tapestry. The yellows of lions and summer grass, and the sound of the matted lion lungs exhaling on the silent noontide, and the smell of meat from the panting, dripping mouths. The lion stood looking at George and Lydia Hadley with terrible green-yellow eyes. "Watch out!" screamed Lydia. The lions came running at them. Lydia bolted and ran. Instinctively, George sprang after her. Outside in the hall, with the door slammed, he was laughing and she was crying. And they both stood appalled at the other's reaction. "George!" "Lydia. Oh, my dear poor sweet Lydia. They almost got us." "Walls, Lydia. Remember, crystal walls. That's what they are. Oh, they look real, I must admit. Africa, in your parlor. But it's all dimensional, super reactionary, super sensitive color film and mental tape film behind glass screens. It's all odorophonics and sonics, Lydia. Here's my handkerchief." "I'm afraid." She came to him and put her body against him and cried steadily. "Did you see? Did you feel? It's too real. Now, Lydia, you've got to tell Wendy and Peter not to read any more on Africa." Of course, he patted her. "Promise?" "Sure." "And lock the nursery for a few days until I get my nerves settled." You know how difficult Peter is about that. When I punished him a month ago by locking the nursery for even a few hours, the tantrum he threw. And Wendy too. They live for the nursery. "It's got to be locked. That's all there is to it." "All right." Reluctantly, he locked the huge door. "You've been working too hard. You need a rest." I don't know," she said, blowing her nose, sitting down in a chair that immediately began to rock and comfort her. "Maybe I don't have enough to do. Maybe I have time to think too much. Why don't we shut the whole house off for a few days and take a vacation?" "You mean you want to fry my eggs for me?" "Yes," she nodded. "And damn my socks?" "Yes," a frantic, watery-eyed nodding. "And sweep the house?" Yes, oh yes." "But I thought that's why we bought this house, so we wouldn't have to do anything." That's just it. I feel like I don't belong here. The house is wife and mother now, and nursemaid. Can I compete with an African Welt? Can I give a bath and scrub the children as efficiently or quickly as the automatic scrub bath can? I cannot. And it isn't just me, it's you. You've been awfully nervous lately. I suppose I have been smoking too much. You look as if you didn't know what to do with yourself in this house either. You smoke a little more every morning and drink a little more every afternoon and eat a little more sedative every night. You're beginning to feel unnecessary, too. Am I? He paused and tried to feel into himself to see what was really there. Oh, George. She looked beyond him at the nursery door. Those lions can't get out of there, can they? He looked at the door and saw it tremble, as if something had jumped against it from the other side. Of course not, he said. Okay, let me sit more properly. Is there still fireworks outside? Can you guys hear that? Right, it's like they got like TVs in fucking 1950s. It's so, but it's like all like, it's like virtual reality kind of, I guess, you know? Yeah, I think there's fireworks out there. You don't hear them? Okay, cool. Because I can hear them and I'm like, is this ruining it? Yeah, I can definitely hear them. But if you hear any like weird sound, it's the fireworks. At dinner, they ate alone, for Wendy and Peter were at the special plastic carnival across town and had televised home. See, there's typos. They confuse H and B sometimes for some reason, like multiple lines. It says bad, even though it means had, and it took me a second. Okay, hold up. Let me restart this paragraph. Who fireworks in October? Maybe it's like a Halloween party or something. You know, some people have fun on Halloween and don't sit in a dark room reading stories. I fucking hate it here. At dinner, they ate alone, for Wendy and Peter were at a special plastic carnival across town and had televised home to say they'd be late. To go ahead eating. So George Hadley, bemused, sat watching the dining room table produce warm dishes of food from its mechanical interior. We forgot the ketchup, he said. Sorry, said a small voice within the table, and ketchup appeared. As for the nursery, for George Hadley, it won't hurt for the children to be locked out of it a while. Too much of anything isn't good for anyone, and it was clearly indicated that the children had been spending a little too much time on Africa. That sun, he could feel it on his neck, still like a hot paw. And the lions, and the smell of blood. Remarkable how the nursery caught the telepathic emanations of the children's mind and created life to fill their every desire. The children fought lions, and there were lions. The children fought zebras, and there were zebras. Sun, giraffes, deaf, and deaf. That last, he chewed tastelessly on the meat that the table had cut for him. Deaf thoughts. They were awfully young, Wendy and Peter, for deaf thoughts. Or, no, you were never too young, really. Long before you knew what deaf was, you were wishing it on someone else. When you were 2 years old, you were shooting people with cap pistols. But this, the long, hot African veldt, the awful death in the jaws of a lion, and repeat it again and again. Where are you going? He didn't answer Lydia. Preoccupied, he let the lights glow softly on ahead of him, extinguish behind him as he padded to the nursery door. He listened against it. Far away, a lion roared. He unlocked the door and opened it. Just before he stepped inside, he heard a faraway scream, and then another roar from the lions, which subsided quickly. He stepped into Africa. How many times in the last year had he opened this door and found Wonderland, Alice, the Mock Turtle, or Aladdin and his magical lamp, or Jack Pumpkinhead of Oz, or Mr. Dolittle, or the cow jumping over a very real appearing moon, all the delightful contraptions of a make-believe world. How often had he seen Pegasus flying in the sky ceiling, or seen fountains of red fireworks, or heard angel voices singing, But now is yellow hot Africa. This bake oven with murder in the heat. Perhaps Lydia was right. Perhaps they need a little vacation from the fantasy which was growing a bit too real for 10-year-old children. It was all right to exercise one's mind with gymnastic fantasies, but when the lively child mind settles on one pattern, it seemed that at a distance, for the past month, he had heard lions roaring and smelled the strong odor seeping as far away as his study door, but being busy, he had paid it no attention. George Hadley stood on the African grassland alone. The lions looked up from feeding, watching him. The only flaw to the illusion was the open door through which he could see his wife, far from the dark hall, like a framed picture, eating her dinner abstractedly. "Go away," he said to the lions. They did not go. He knew the principle of the room exactly. You send out your thoughts. Whatever you thought would appear. "Let's have Aladdin and his lamp," he snapped. The wetland remained. The lions remained. "Come on, room, I demand Aladdin," he said. Nothing happened. The lions mumbled in their baked pelts. "Aladdin!" He went back to dinner. "The full room's out of order," he said. "It won't respond." Or what? "Or it can't respond," said Lydia. "Because the children have thought about Africa and lions and killing so many days that the room's in a rut." Could be. Or Peter set it to remain that way. Set it. He may have got into the machinery and fixed something. Peter doesn't know machinery. He's a wise one for 10, that IQ of his, nevertheless. "Hello, Mom. Hello, Dad." The Hadneys turned. Wendy and Peter were coming in the front door, cheeks like peppermint candy, eyes like bright blue agate marbles. A smell of ozone on their jumpers from their trip to in the helicopter. "You're just in time for supper," said both parents. "We're full of strawberry ice cream and hot dogs," said the children, holding hands. "But we'll sit and watch." "Yes, come tell us about the nursery," said George. The brother and sister blinked at him and then at each other. "Nursery?" "All about Africa and everything," said the father with false joviality. I don't know that word. "I don't understand," said Peter. "Your mother and I were just traveling through Africa with rod and reel. Tom Swift and his electric lion," said George Hadley. "There's no Africa in the nursery," said Peter simply. "Oh, come on now, Peter, we know better." "I don't remember any Africa," said Peter to Wendy. "Do you?" "No." "Run see and come tell," she obeyed. "Wendy, come back here," said George Hadley, but she was gone. The house lights followed her like a flock of fireflies. Too late. He realized he had forgotten to lock the nursery door after his last inspection. "Wendy, look and come tell us," said Peter. "You shouldn't have to tell me. I've seen it." "I'm sure you've mistaken, father." "I'm not, Peter. Come along now." But Wendy was back. "It's not Africa," she said breathlessly. "We'll see about this," said George Hadley, and they all walked down the hall together and opened the nursery door. There was a green, lovely forest, a lovely river, a purple mountain, high voices singing, and Rima, lovely and mysterious, lurking in the trees of colorful flights of butterflies, like animated bouquets, lingering in her long hair. The African wetland was gone. The lions were gone. Only Rima was there now, singing a song so beautiful that it brought tears to your eyes. George Hadley looked at the changed scene. "Go to bed," he said to the children. They opened their mouths. "You heard me," he said. They went off to the air closet, where a wind sucked them like brown leaves up the flue to their slumber rooms. George Hadley walked through the sinking glade and picked up something that lay in the corner near where the lions had been. He walked slowly back to his wife. "What is that?" she asked. "An old wallet of mine," he said. He showed it to her. The smell of hot grass was on it, and the smell of a lion. There were drops of saliva on it. It had been chewed, and there were blood smears on both sides. He closed the nursery door and locked it tight. Thank you so much for the super chats, Ethan. Let me just have some tea. Hold up. The story is really good, I think. Okay. In the middle of the night, he was still awake, and he knew his wife was awake. Do you think Wendy changed it? She said at last, in the dark room. Wait, that was the wife. I gotta do the wife voice. I can't tell who's talking. Do you think Wendy changed it? She said at last, in the dark room. Of course. Made it from a veld into a forest and put Rima there instead of lions? Yes. Why? I don't know, but it's staying locked until I find out. How did your wallet get there? I don't know anything, he said, except that I'm beginning to be sorry we bought that room for the children. If children are neurotic at all, a room like that, it's supposed to help them work off their neuroses in a helpful way. I'm starting to wonder. He stared at the ceiling. We've given the children everything they ever wanted. Is this our reward? Secrecy? Disobedience? Who was it said, children are carpets, they should be stepped on occasionally. We've never lifted a hand. They're insufferable, let's admit it. They come and go when they like. They treat us as if we were offspring. They're spoiled and we're spoiled. They've been acting funny ever since you forbade them to take the rocket to New York a few months ago. They're not old enough to do that alone, I explained. Nevertheless, I've noticed they've been decidedly cool towards us since. I think I'll have David McLean come tomorrow morning to have a look at Africa. But it's not Africa now, it's Green Mansions Country and Rima. I have a feeling it'll be Africa again before then. A moment later, they heard the screams. Two screams. Two people screaming from downstairs. And then a roar of lions. Wendy and Peter aren't in their rooms, said his wife. He lay in his bed with his beating heart. No, he said, they've broken into the nursery. Those screams, they sound familiar. Do they? Yes, awfully. And although their beds tried very hard, the two adults couldn't be rocked to sleep for another hour. A smell of cats was in the night air. Children are carpets is crazy. I know. Father, said Peter. Yes. Peter looked at his shoes. He never looked at his father anymore, nor at his mother. You aren't going to lock up the nursery for good, are you? That all depends. On what? Snapped Peter. On you and your sister. If you intersperse with this Africa with a little variety. Oh, Sweden, perhaps, or Denmark, or China. I thought we were free to play as we wished. You are, within reasonable bounds. What's wrong with Africa, father? Oh, so now you admit you have been conjuring up Africa, do you? I wouldn't want the nursery locked up, said Peter coldly. Ever. Matter of fact, we're thinking of turning the whole house off for about a month. Live sort of a carefree, one-for-all existence. That sounds dreadful. Would I have to tie my own shoes instead of letting the shoe tire do it? And brush my own teeth and comb my hair and give myself a bath? It would be fun for a change, don't you think? No, it would be horrid. I didn't like it when you took out the picture painter last month. That's because I want you to learn to paint all by yourself, son. Not the AI art. I don't want to do anything but look and listen and smell. What else is there to do? Alright, go play in Africa. Will you shut off the house sometime soon? We're considering it. I don't think you'd better consider it anymore, father. I won't have any threats from my son. Very well. And Peter strolled off to the nursery. Creepy-ass child, bro. What the fuck? They predicted the AI art 70 years ago. I'm so glad to hear that Dad is anti-AI. What a progressive king. It's irrelevant, I know, right? All these sci-fi stories from the past are always like super fucking relevant to this day, and it hurts so much. Dropping off my kid. Go play in Africa, leave me alone. Am I on time? Said David McLean. Breakfast? Asked George Hadley. Thanks, I had some. What's the trouble? David, you're a psychologist. I should hope so. Well then, have a look at our nursery. You saw it a year ago when you dropped by. Did you notice anything peculiar about it then? Can't say I did. The usual violences, a tendency towards a slight paranoia here or there, usual in children because they feel persecuted by parents constantly, but oh, really, nothing. They walked down the hall. I locked the nursery up, explained the father, and the children broke back into it during the night. That was really, that firework was really close. And the children broke back into it during the night. I let them stay so they could form the patterns for you to see. There was terrible screaming from the nursery. There it is, said George Hadley. See what you make of it. They walked in on the children without rapping. The screams had faded, the lions were feeding. Run outside a moment, children, said George Hadley. No, don't change the mental combination. Leave the walls as they are. Get. With the children gone, the two men stood studying the lions, clustered at a distance, eating with great relish whatever it was they had caught. You heard that one? Yeah, it was pretty loud. I wish I knew what it was, said George Hadley. Sometimes I can almost see. Do you think if I brought high-powered binoculars here and... David McLean laughed dryly. Hardly. He turned to study all four walls. How long has this been going on? A little over a month. It certainly doesn't feel good. I want facts, not feelings. My dear George, a psychologist never saw a fact in his life. He only hears about feelings, vague things. This doesn't feel good, I tell you. Trust my hunches and my instincts. I have a nose for something bad. This is very bad. My advice to you is to have the whole damn room torn down and your children brought to me every day during the next year for treatment. Is it that bad? I'm afraid so. One of the original uses of these nurseries was so that we could study the patterns left on the walls by the child's mind, study at our leisure and help the child. In this case, however, the room has become a channel towards distractive thoughts instead of a release away from them. Didn't you sense this before? I sensed only that you had spoiled your children more than most, and now you're letting them down in some way. What way? I wouldn't let them go to New York. What else? I've taken a few machines from the house and treated them a month ago with closing up the nursery unless they did their homework. I did close it for a few days to show I meant business. Aha! Does that mean anything? Everything. Where before they had Santa Claus, now they have a Scrooge. Children prefer Santas. You've let this room and this house replace you and your wife in your children's affections. This room is their mother and father, far more important in their lives than their real parents. And now you come along and want to shut it off. No wonder there's hatred here. You can feel it coming out of the sky. Feel that sun. George, you'll have to change your life. Little too many others. You've built it around creature comforts. Why, you'd starve tomorrow if something went wrong in your kitchen. You wouldn't know how to tap an egg. Nevertheless, turn everything off. Start new. It'll take time, but we'll make good children out of bad in a year. Wait and see. But won't the shock be too much for the children shutting the room up abruptly for good? I don't want them going any deeper into this. That's all. The lions were finished with their red feast. The lions were standing on the edge of the clearing, watching the two men. I can't read it. The hair in my face. Help. Assistant. There you go. No, that didn't help. Never mind. Now I'm feeling persecuted, said McLean. Let's get out of here. I never have cared for these damn rooms. Make me nervous. The lions look real, don't they? Said George Hadley. I don't suppose there's any way... What? That they could become real? Not that I know. Some flaw in the machinery, a tampering or something. No. They went to the door. I don't imagine the room will like being turned off, said the father. Nothing ever likes to die. Even our room. I wonder if it hates me for wanting to switch it off. Paranoia is thick around here today, said David McLean. You can follow it like a spore. Hello. He bent and picked up a bloody scarf. This yours? No, George Hadley's face was rigid. It belongs to Lydia. They went to the fuse box together and threw the switch that killed the nursery. The two children were in hysterics. They screamed and pranced and threw things. They yelled and sobbed and swore and jammed at the furniture. "You can't do that to the nursery! You can't! Now, children." The children flung themselves onto a couch, weeping. "George," said Lydia Hadley, "turn on the nursery just for a few moments. You can't be so abrupt. No. You can't be so cruel. Lydia, it's off, and it stays off, and the whole damn house dies as of here and now. The more I see of the mess we've put ourselves, the more it sickens me. We've been contemplating our mechanical electronic novels for too long. My God, how we need a breath of honest air." And he marched about the house, turning off the voice clocks, the stoves, the heaters, the shoe shiners, the shoelacers, the body scrubbers and swabbers and massagers, and every other machine he could put his hand to. The house was full of dead bodies, it seemed. It felt like a mechanical cemetery, so silent, none of the humming hidden energy of machines waiting to function at the tap of a button. "Don't let them do it," wailed Peter at the ceiling, as if he was talking to the house, the nursery. "Don't let father kill everything." He turned to his father. "Oh, I hate you." Insults won't get you anywhere. "I wish you were dead." We were, for a long while. Now we're going to really start leaving. Instead of being handled and massaged, we're going to leave. Wendy was still crying, and Peter joined her again. "Just a moment, just one moment, just another moment of the nursery," they wailed. "Oh, George," said the wife, "it can't hurt." All right, if he'll just shut up. 1 minute, mind you, and then off forever." Not turning off Alexa. Oh God. "Daddy, Daddy, Daddy," sang the children, smiling with wet faces. "And then we're going on vacation. David McLean is coming back in half an hour to help us move out and get to the airport. I'm going to dress. You turn the nursery on for a minute, Lydia. Just a minute, mind you." And the three of them went babbling off while he let himself be vacuumed upstairs. The air flew and set about dressing himself. A minute later, Lydia appeared. "I'll be glad when we get away," she sighed. "Did you leave them in the nursery?" "I wanted to dress too." "Oh, that horrid Africa. What can they see in it?" "Well, in 5 minutes we'll be on our way to Iowa." Lord, how did we ever get in this house? What prompted us to buy a nightmare? Pride, money, foolishness? I think we'd better get downstairs before those kids get engrossed with those damned beasts again. Just then, they heard the children calling, "Daddy, Mommy, come quick, quick!" They went downstairs, in the air flew, and ran down the hall. The children were nowhere in sight. "Wendy? Peter?" They ran into the nursery. The wetland was empty, save for the lions waiting, looking at them. "Peter! Wendy!" The door slammed. "Wendy! Peter!" George Hadley and his wife whirled and ran back to the door. "Open the door!" cried George Hadley, trying the knob. "Why, they've locked it from the outside! Peter!" He beat at the door. "Open up!" He heard Peter's voice outside, against the door. "Don't let them switch off the nursery and the house," he was saying. Mr. and Mrs. George Hadley beat at the door. "Now don't be ridiculous, children. It's time to go. Mr. McLean will be here in a minute and they heard the sounds. Oh, my camera. The most important part. Of course this happens. Okay, where was I? And then they heard the sounds. The lions, on 3 sides of them, in the yellow veldt grass, padding through the dry straw, rambling and roaring in their throats. The lions. Mr. Hadley looked at his wife, and they turned and looked back at the beasts, edging slowly towards, crouching, tails stiff. Mr. and Mrs. Hadley screamed, and suddenly they realized why those other screams had sounded familiar. "Well, here I am," said David McLean in the nursery doorway. "Oh, hello." He stared at the 2 children seated in the center of the open glade, eating a little picnic lunch. Beyond them was the water hole and the yellow wetland. Above was the hot sun. He began to perspire. "Where are your father and mother?" The children looked up and smiled. "Oh, they'll be here directly." "Good. We must get going." At a distance, Mr. McLean saw the lions fighting and clawing, and then quieting down to feed in silence under the shady trees. He squinted at the lions with his hand tipped to his eyes. Now the lions were done feeding. They moved to the water hole to drink. A shadow flicked over Mr. McLean's hot face. Many shadows flickered. The vultures were dropping down the blazing sky. "A cup of tea?" asked Wendy in the silence. Scary ass children. My camera is like, everything is so fucked up. Hold up. I mean, like... That was it. Camera wants to add its own jump scares. I know, right? They freaking ate them. The VR lions freaking ate them. And the foreshadowing, they kept being like, "Oh, did you hear the screams? Those sounded familiar." This story is like so weird. It's like a really bizarre sci-fi, you know? Like, how did the lions become real? Nobody knows. Did it get darker in here? Like, I'm so confused. In my hand, I need to stretch my wrist once again from all the puppeting I've been doing. Maybe that lamp is dying again. I don't know. Yeah, I'll put a creepy flashlight light in here as well, just in case. I jumped in like halfway through and I'm so lost. Okay, so this story was... Oh my goodness. I gotta stop like pushing shit. For anybody who just joined us, so sorry if I didn't say hi. It's like very difficult for me to do that while also reading. This is why I don't trust the furries in the R chat. They just don't go to the R chat. There's like all furries in there, isn't it? So this story was the Velt by Ray Bradbury, and I still don't know how to pronounce it, but it's okay. Yep, it was quite fun. It's like a really weird like mix of like sci-fi and horror. I don't know. It was quite nice, I think. Really strange. I know I would have never in my life thought of something like that, but you know. Okay, so I think what time is it? It's 9. Yeah, I think we can do 2 more, maybe 1 more. We'll do 1 more and then we'll see how we're feeling after that, and maybe we can do 1 more after. But we have 2 more stories, so we'll just see how it goes. So they gonna eat you? No. It was supposed to be scary. I think it's a bit more... I don't think this story was like scary, but I think it was quite... It was a bit like dystopian, right? It's like, oh, the technology and how it like how the children basically went crazy. I think it was a bit... I think it was a nice vibe. It's not like terrifying, but I think it's like a very interesting kind of like mystery story. Right? Like it was made in 1950, it says here, which is like crazy. You know, I mean, don't you love it when they predict this kind of shit? If it's yeah, it is. It's literally from 1950. That is honestly insane. It even has AI art in it. Like that's wow. How'd they do that? Hello, Kiki. How are you doing? Okay, what should we do next? Another Allan Poe story or Charles Dickens? I need to go to the bathroom. The AI art bit was crazy, I know, right? Dad really said pick up a pencil. Oh my god, Zone, the surname Dickens is not that funny. But are you like 5 years old? It's crazy when they no, because like here is my science fiction novel. Do not invent the evil nexus, tech companies. So we have invented the evil nexus. Classic. What a classic. But yeah. I'm gonna go to the bathroom, and then we will be back. You guys can decide if we should read another Allan Poe or Dickens story. I will be back. I'll play you guys an ad as well. Where is the ad button? Okay, I'll be right back. This is for you, Duckult. Tell no one. You got an ad? Nice. You like never get ads. I'm so happy you did. Okay, let me just finish my tea. Dr. Squatcha. I don't know what that is. I have no idea what that is. Give Dickens a chance. Eddie got his shot already. Okay, let's do the Charles Dickens story then. That's pretty good. It's the one Aaron recommended yesterday and I found it today. Actually, I quite enjoyed it. It's not super spooky though. I think this one is more like also like on the dark side, but I swear to God, I'm gonna be struggling so much to read this though. I'm so sorry, like in advance. My brain cannot fucking read this shit. What year was this? I don't even know. But yeah, this just probably will take like same amount of, it's the same length as the lion story we just read, so stop it with the fireworks. What is happening? If you're gonna be making outside noises, at least have the Russians fight again. That would be so much fun. Anyways, I'm back. Hello. I have a flashlight shining on me now, because why not? For that extra spooky lighting. I don't know. Is it too bright? I can't tell. Oh my God! Stop. Actually, it's okay. I don't know, it was like really dark before, but I think it's okay. Never mind, we're fine. Lera jump scare, Puppet Lera jump scare. I'm gonna do like a FNAF fucking thing, like as the fireworks go in the background. Hello, Holly, we're about to start the next story. Oh God, I'm so sorry for any like mistakes I make while reading this one. I swear to God, the English language is so confusing. What are they celebrating here? What are they celebrating? Surely they can't be this enthusiastic about Halloween. Is there such a thing as Halloween fucking fireworks? Like, I don't know. Is there maybe like a football game tonight? Usually when there's football games, there's always fireworks. Is there a football game tonight? Celebrating Lera. Yeah, they're celebrating me, clearly. It's Puppet Lera's Halloween birthday. Real. Hashtag real. Not a lie. There's a Christian holiday today, really. I don't think those really call for fireworks either, do they? I have no idea. No clue. Anyways, I'm going to start the Signal Man now. The Sigma Man. The Signal. I don't know why I made that joke. I'm not usually like that, guys. You know that, right? Football or football, the second one. There's a whole medieval fair. Oh my God, I love medieval fairs. They're so much fun. I never hope I for New Year's. They do fireworks pretty often here. I don't even know why. Normally it's like football games or something else. I don't know. Los Angeles team won here yesterday. It sounded like a war zone, bro. I can only imagine. I can't believe Puppet Lera has brain. Well, Puppet Lera is for the children, you know. I'm out here to get my like Zoomer audience or whatever it is they call it these days. I just need to put in some more Subway Surfers gameplay and then we're Gucci. Ouch! Stop shaking the camera though, that would be so cool. The Duckult looks so fucking funny today. Like he's just kinda like there, like you don't do like fully see him, just kinda like peeking through and just like staring. Can't wait to get scared. Boo! Can we see Puppet Lera hit the yoinky sploinky? There you go. I will now start reading the next story. Please do not distract me. Please. I'm trying so hard not to be distracted while reading this. It's crazy. But I can't. You can add more meme sounds and jump cut. Peak content. Alright, The Signal Man by Charles Dickens. Everybody. I feel like I at all times I feel like a substitute teacher on these streams. At all times. Hello, below there. When he heard a voice thus calling to him, he was standing at the door of his box with a flag in his hand, furled round its short pole. One would have thought, considering the nature of the ground, that he could not have doubted from what quarter the voice came. But instead of looking up to where I stood on the top of the steep cutting nearly over his head, he turned himself about and looked down the line. There was something remarkable in his manner of doing so, though I could not have said for my life what. But I know it was remarkable enough to attract my notice, even though his figure was foreshortened and shadowed, down in the deep trench, and mine was high above him, so steeped in the glow of an angry sunset that I had shaded my eyes with my hand before I saw him at all. Hello, below! From looking down the line, he turned himself about again, and, raising his eyes, saw my figure high above him. Is there any path by which I can come down and speak to you? He looked up at me without replying, and I looked down at him without pressing him too soon with a repetition of my idle question. Just then, there came a vague vibration in the earth and air, quickly changing into a violent pulsation, and an oncoming rush that caused me to start back, as though it had force to draw me down. When such vapor as rose to my height from this rapid train had passed me, and was skimming away over the landscape, I looked down again and saw him refurling the flag he had shown while the train went by. I repeated my inquiry. After a pause, during which he seemed to regard me with fixed attention, he motioned with his rolled-up flag towards a point on my level, some 200 or 300 yards distant. I called down to him, "All right," and made for that point. There, by dint of looking closely about me, I found a rough zigzag descending path notched out, which I followed. The cutting was extremely deep and unusually precipitate. It was made through a clammy stone that became oozier and wetter as I went down. For these reasons, I found the way long enough to give me time to recall a singular air of reluctance or compulsion with which he had pointed out the path. When I came down low enough upon the zigzag descent to see him again, I saw that he was standing between the rails on the way by which the train had lately passed, in an attitude as if he were waiting for me to appear. Stop at the firework! I'm trying to read! Oh my god. He had his left hand at his chin, and that left elbow rested on his right hand, crossed over his breast. His attitude was one of such expectation and watchfulness that I stopped a moment, wondering at it. Stop. Stop. You cannot have his attitude in here, you people. Do not bring this kind of talk into my educational book club stream. Do not bring this kind of talk in here. Unbelievable. I'm gonna fucking Freddy Fazbear you. Ah! If you talk like that. I resumed my downward way, and stepping out upon the level of the railroad, and drawing nearer to him, so that he was a dark, sallow man with a dark beard and rather heavy eyebrows. His post was in a solitary and dismal a place as ever I saw. On either side, a dripping wet wall of jagged stone, excluding all view but a strip of sky, the perspective one way only a crooked prolongation of this grey dungeon, the shorter perspective in the other direction terminating in a gloomy... Oh my god, stop! In a gloomy red light and the gloomier entrance to a black tunnel, in whose massive architecture there was a barbarous, depressing, and forbidding air. So little sunlight ever found its way to the spot that it had an earthy, deadly smell, and so much cold wind rushed through it that it struck chill to me, as if I had left the natural world. Before he stirred, I was near enough to him to have touched him. Not even then, removing his eyes from mine, I cannot read, he stepped back one step and lifted his hand. This was a lonesome post to occupy, I said, and it had riveted my attention when I looked down from up yonder. A visitor was a rarity, I should suppose, not an unwelcome rarity, I hoped. In me, he merely saw a man who had been shut up within narrow limits all his life, and who, being at last set free, had a newly awakened interest in these great works. To such purpose I spoke with him, but I am far from sure of the terms I used, for besides that I am not happy in opening any conversation, there was something in the man that daunted me. He directed a most curious look towards the red light near the tunnel's mouth, and looked all about it, as if something were missing from it, and then looked at me. My hair. Stop. I need hair clips. Oh my god, are these fireworks gonna stop? I fucking hate it here. They're like right next to me. That light was part of his charge, was it not? He answered in a low voice. Don't you know it is? The monstrous thought came into my mind as I perused the fixed eyes and the saturnine face. I have no idea what this word means. That this was a spirit, not a man. I have speculated since whether there may have been infection in my mind. I cannot read today. Can I reread this entire fucking paragraph? Hold up. I warned you about this one. The monstrous thought came into my mind as I perused the fixed eyes and the saturnine face, that this was a spirit, not a man. I have speculated since whether there may have been infection in his mind. In my turn, I stepped back, but in making the action, I detected in his eyes some latent fear of me. He put the monstrous thought to flight. You look at me, I said, forcing a smile, as if you had a dread of me. I was doubtful, he returned, whether I had seen you before. Where? He pointed to the red light he had looked at. There? I said. Intently watchful of me, he replied, but without sound. Yes. My good fellow, what should I do there? However, be that as it may, I never was there. You may swear. I think I may, he rejoined. Yes, I am sure I may. His manner cleared, like my own. He replied to my remarks with readiness and in well-chosen words. Had he much to do there? Yes, that was to say he had enough responsibility to bear, but exactness and watchfulness were what was required of him, and of actual work, manual labor, he had next to none. To change that signal, to trim those lights, and to turn this iron handle now and then, was all he had to do under that head. Regarding those many long and lonely hours, of which I seemed to make so much, he could only say that the routine of his life had shaped itself into that form, and he had grown used to it. He had taught himself a language down here, if only to know it by sight, and to have formed his own crude ideas of its pronunciation could he called learning it. He had also worked at fractions and decimals, and tried a little algebra, but he was, and had been, as a boy, a poor hand at figures. So real. Was it necessary for him when on duty, always to remain in that channel of damp air? And could he never rise into the sunshine from between those high stone walls? Why, that depended upon times and circumstances. Under some conditions, where it would be less upon the line than under others, and the same held good as to certain hours of the day and night. In bright weather, he did choose occasions for getting a little above these lower shadows, but being at all times liable to be called by his electric bell, and at such times listening for it with redoubted anxiety. The relief was less than I would suppose. There you go. I love reading. Wish my hair was as fine as Puppet Lera's. Hello, Phoenix. Are you guys fucking talking about Taco Bell while I'm reading this? Reading out loud is really difficult. Like it's fine in your head. Like in your head you're reading and you're like, wow, I'm amazing. I can read 1,000 words per minute. And then you try fucking reading out loud for a second and you're like, wow, I can't say words. Okay. He took me into his box, where there was a fire, a desk for an official book in which he had to make certain entries, a telegraphic instrument with its dial, face and needles, and the little bell of which he had spoken. On my trusting that he would excuse the remark that he had been well educated, and I hoped I might say without offense, perhaps educated above that station, he observed that instance of slight incongruity in such wise would rarely be found wanting among large bodies of men, that he had heard it was so in workhouses, in the police force, even in that last desperate resource, the army, and that he knew it was so, more or less, in any great railway stuff. He had been, when young, if I could believe it, sitting in that hut, he scarcely could, a student of natural philosophy, and had attended lectures, but he had run wild, misused his opportunities, gone down, and never risen again. He had no complaint to offer about that. He had made his bed, and he lay upon it. It was far too late to make another. The fireworks are driving me mad. My mouth gets right in a minute. That's so real, bestie. I'm out of tea too, so I'm just gonna suffer. All that I have here, condensed, he said, in a quiet manner, with his grave, dark regards divided between me and the fire. He threw in the word sir from time to time, and especially when he referred to his youth, as though to request me to understand that he claimed to be nothing but what I found him. He was several times interrupted by the little bell, and had to read off messages and send replies. Once he had to stand without the door, and display a flag as a train passed, and make some verbal communication to the driver. In the discharge of his duties, I observed him to be remarkably exact and vigilant, breaking off his discourse at a syllable, and remaining silent until what he had to do was done. In a word, I should have set this man down as one of the safest of men to be employed in that capacity, but for the circumstance that while he was speaking to me, he twice broke off with a fallen color, turned his face towards the little bell when it did not ring, opened the door of the hut, which was kept shut to exclude the unhealthy damp, and looked out towards the red light near the mouth of the tunnel. On both of those occasions, he came back to the fire with the inexplicable air upon him, which I had remarked, without being able to define, when we were so far asunder. Said I, when I rose to leave him, you almost make me think that I have met with a contented man. I'm afraid I must acknowledge that I said this to lead him on. I believe I used to be so, he rejoined, in the low voice in which he had first spoken. But I am troubled, sir. I am troubled. He would have recalled the words if he could. He had said them, however, and I took them up quickly. With what? What is your trouble? It is very difficult to impart, sir. It is very, very difficult to speak of. If ever you make me another visit, I will try to tell you. But I expressly intend to make you another visit. Say, when shall it be? I go off early in the morning, and I shall be on again at 10 tomorrow night, sir. I will come at 11. He thanked me, and went out at the door with me. I'll show you my white light, sir, he said, in his peculiar low voice, till you have found the way up. When you have found it, don't call out. And when you are at the top, don't call out. His manner seemed to make the place strike colder to me, but I said no more than, very well. And when you come down tomorrow night, don't call out. Let me ask you a parting question. What made you cry, hello, below there, tonight? Heaven knows, I said. I cried something to that effect, not to that effect, sir. Those were the very words. I know them well. Admit those are the very words. I said them, no doubt, because I saw you below. For no other reason? What other reason could I possibly have? You had no feeling that they were conveyed to you in any supernatural way? No. He wished me good night and held up his light. I walked by the side of the down line of rails with a very disagreeable sensation of a train coming behind me, until I found the path. It was easier to mount than to descend, and I got back to my inn without any adventure. Punctual to my appointment, I placed my foot on the first notch of the zigzag next night. At the distant clocks were striking 11. He was waiting for me at the bottom, with his white light on. I have not called out, I said, when we came close together. May I speak now? By all means, sir. Good night, then, and here's my hand. Good night, sir, and here's mine. With that, we walked side by side to his box, entered it, closed the door, and sat down by the fire. I have made up my mind, sir, he began, bending forward as soon as we were seated, and speaking in a tone but a little above a whisper. What you shall not have to ask me twice, what troubles me. I took you for someone else yesterday evening. That troubles me. That mistake? No, that's someone else. Who is it? I don't know. Like me? I don't know. I never saw the face. The left arm is across the face, and the right arm is waved, violently waved, this way. I followed his action with my eyes, and it was the action of an arm gesticulating with the utmost passion and vehemence. For God's sake, clear the way. One moonlight night, said the man, I was sitting here, when I heard a voice cry, hello, below there. I started up, looked from that door, and saw the someone else standing by the red light near the tunnel, waving as I just now showed you. The voice seemed hoarse with shouting, and it cried, look out, and then again, hello, below there, look out. I caught up my lamp, turned it on red, and ran towards the figure, calling, what's wrong? What had happened? Where? It stood just outside the blackness of the tunnel. I advanced so close upon it that I wondered at its keeping the sleeve across its eyes. I ran right up at it, and had my hand stretched out to pull the sleeve away, when it was gone. Into the tunnel? Said I. No, I ran on into the tunnel, 500 yards. I stopped and held my lamp above my head, and saw the figures of the measured distance, and saw the wet stains stealing down the walls and trickling through the arch. I ran out again faster than I had run in, for I had a mortal appearance of the place above upon me. And I looked all around the red light with my own red light, and I went up the iron ladder to the gallery atop of it, and I came down again and ran back here. I telegraphed both ways. An alarm has been given. Is anything wrong? The answer came back, both ways. All well. Resisting the slow touch of a frozen finger tracing out my spine, I showed him how that this figure must be a deception of his senses of sight, and how that figures originating in disease of the delicate nerves that minister to the functions of the eye were known to have often troubled patients, some of whom had become conscious of the nature of their affliction, and had even proved it by experiments upon themselves. As to an imaginary cry, said I, do but listen for a moment to the wind in this unnatural valley while we speak so low, and to the wild harp it makes of the telegraph wires. That was all very well, he returned, after we had sat listening for a while, and he ought to know something of the wind and the wires. He who so often passed long winter nights here, alone and watching. But he would beg me to remark that he had not finished. I asked his pardon, and he slowly added these words, touching my arm. Within 6 hours after the appearance, the memorable accident on this line happened, and within 10 hours the dead and wounded were brought along through the tunnel, over the spot where the figure had stood. A disagreeable shadow crept over me, but I did my best against it. It was not to be denied, I rejoined, that it was a remarkable coincidence, calculated deeply to impress his mind, but it was unquestionable that remarkable coincidences did continually occur, and they must be taken into account in dealing with such a subject. Though to be sure, I must admit, I added, for I thought I saw that he was going to bring the objection to bear upon me. Men of common sense do not allow much coincidences in making the ordinary calculations of life. He again begged to remark that he had not finished. I again begged his pardon for being betrayed into interruptions. This, he said, again laying his hand upon my arm, and glancing over his shoulder with hollow eyes, was just a year ago. 6 or 7 months passed, and I had recovered from the surprise and shock, when one morning, as the day was breaking, I, standing at the door, looked towards the red light and saw the spectre again. He stopped with a fixed look at me. Did it cry out? No. It was silent. Did it wave its arm? No. It leaned against the shaft of the light, with both hands before the face, like this. Once more I followed his action with my eyes. It was an action of mourning. I have seen such an attitude in stone figures on tombs. Did you go up to it? I came in and sat down, partly to collect my thoughts, partly because it had turned me faint. When I went to the door again, daylight was above me, and the ghost was gone. But nothing followed. Nothing came of this. He touched me on the arm with his forefinger twice or thrice, giving a ghastly nod each time. That very day, as a train came out of the tunnel, I noticed at a carriage window on my side that looked like a confusion of hands and heads, and something waved. I saw it just in time to signal the driver. Stop! He shut off and pulled his brake on, but the train drifted past here 150 yards or more. I ran after it, and as I went along, heard terrible screams and cries. A beautiful young lady had died instantaneously in one of the compartments, and was brought in here and laid down on this floor between us. Involuntarily, I pushed my chair back as I looked from the boards at which he pointed to himself. True, sir, true, precisely as it happened, so I tell you. I could think of nothing to say to any purpose, and my mouth was very dry. The wind and the wires took up the story with a long lamenting wail. He resumed. Now, sir, mark this, and judge how my mind is troubled. The spectre came back a week ago. Ever since, it had been there, now and again, by fits and starts. At the light, at the danger light. What does it seem to do? He repeated, if possible with increased passion and vehemence, that former gesticulation of, for God's sake, clear the way. Then he went on, I have no peace or rest for it. It calls to me, for many minutes together, in an agonized manner. Below there, look out, look out! It stands waving to me. It rings my little bell. Why are you guys just sending ducks? I'm dying. Wait, let me just drink some water and then I will continue. Where is my water? Ah! Oh my god, I hate it here. Hold up! I got this. Where's the water? There you go. Hello Kitty swag. Okay. Okay. I don't know why you guys are setting ducks, but I agree. I agree. Holy wanted to start a duck train. So you guys are not listening to me? I can't believe this. I'm like ruining my voice here for you. I'm suffering so much to read this. Old English. Ass. It's not even old English, I'm just making shit up now. Well, Hello Kitty. It is the Hello Kitty bottle you bought me. One of the two. You bought me two. I saw a Spy Family bottle the other day and I was like, I need that so bad, but I already have 2 bottles. I don't need more bottles. But Spy Family. Okay. Back to this. This is actually turning into a cluster stuff. It's been like that since we started. I caught at that. Did it ring your bell yesterday evening when I was here and you went to the door? Twice. Why, see, I said, how your imagination misleads you. My eyes were on the bell and my ears were open to the bell. And if I am a living man, it did not ring at those times. No, nor at any other time, except when it was rang in the natural course of physical things by the station communicating with you. He shook his head. I have never made a mistake as to that yet, sir. I have never confused the spectre's ring with the man's. The ghost ring is a strange vibration in the bell that it derives from nothing else, and I have not asserted that the bell stirs to the eye. I don't wonder that you failed to hear it, but I heard it. And did the spectre seem to be there when you looked out? It was there. Both times? He repeated firmly, both times. Will you come to the door with me and look for it now? He bit his under lip as though he were somewhat unwilling, but arose. I opened the door and stood on the step, while he stood in the doorway. There was the danger light. There was the dismal mouth of the tunnel. There were the high, wet stone walls of the cutting. There were the stars above them. Do you see it? I asked him, taking particular note of his face. His eyes were prominent and strained, but not very much more so, perhaps, than my own had been when I had directed them earnestly towards the same spot. No, he answered. It is not there. Agreed, said I. We went in again, shut the door, and resumed our seats. I was thinking how best to improve this advantage, if it might be called one, when he took up the conversation in such a matter-of-course way, so assuming that there could be no serious question of fact between us, that I felt myself placed in the weakest of positions. By this time, you will fully understand, sir, he said, that what troubles me so dreadfully is the question, what does the spectre mean? I was not sure, I told him, that I did fully understand. What is its warning against, he said, ruminating, with his eyes on the fire, and only by times turning them on me. What is the danger? Where is the danger? There is danger overhanging somewhere on the line. Some dreadful calamity will happen. It is not to be doubted this third time after what has gone before, but surely this is a cruel haunting of me. What can I do? He pulled out his handkerchief and wiped the drops from his heated forehead. If I telegraph danger on either side of me, or on both, I can give no reason for it, he went on, wiping the palms of his hands. I should get into trouble and do no good. They would think I was mad. This is the way it would work. Message. Danger. Take care. Answer. What danger? Where? Message. Don't know. But for God's sake, take care. They would displace me. What else could they do? His pain of mind was not pitiable to see. It was the mental torture of a conscientious... I cannot read this word. Conscientious... Conscientious? Word. Man. Oppressed beyond endurance by an unintelligible responsibility involving life. When it first stood under the danger light, he went on, putting his dark hair back from his head and drawing his hand outward across his temples in an extremity of feverish distress. Why not tell me where that accident was to happen, if it must happen? Why not tell me how it could be averted, if it could have been averted? When, on its second coming, it hit its face, why not tell me instead, she's going to die, let them keep her at home? If it came on those 2 occasions only to show me that its warnings were true and to prepare me for the third, why not warn me plainly now? And I, Lord help me, a mere poor signal man on this solitary station, why not go to somebody with credit to be believed and power to act? Conscientious. That can't be true. When I saw him in this state, I saw that for the poor man's sake, as well as for the public safety, what I had to do for the time was to compose his mind. Therefore, setting aside all question of reality or unreality between us, I represented to him that whoever thoroughly discharged his duty must do well, and that at least it was his comfort that he understood his duty, though he did not understand these confounding appearances. In this effort, I succeeded far better than in the attempt to reason him out of his conviction. He became calm. The occupations incidental to his post as the night advanced began to make larger demands on his attention, and I left him at 2 in the morning. I had offered to stay through the night, but he would not hear of it. But I more than once looked back at the red light as I ascended the pathway, that I did not like the red light, and that I should have slept but poorly if my bed had been under it. I see no reason to conceal, nor did I like the 2 sequences of the accident and the dead girl. I see no reason to conceal that either. But what ran most in my thoughts was the consideration how ought I to act, having become the recipient of this disclosure. I had proved the man to be intelligent, vigilant, painstaking, and exact, but how long might he remain so in his state of mind? Though in a subordinate position, still he held a most important trust, and would I, for instance, like to stake my own life on the chances of his continuing to execute it with precision? Unable to overcome a feeling that there would be something treacherous in my communicating that he had told me to his superior in the company, without first being plain with himself and proposing a middle course to him, I ultimately resolved to offer to accompany him, otherwise keeping his secret for the present, to the wisest medical practitioner we could hear in those parts, and to take his opinion. A change in his time of duty would come round next night. He had apprised me, and he would be off an hour or 2 after sunrise, and on again soon after sunset. I had appointed to return accordingly. Next evening was a lovely evening, and I walked out early to enjoy it. The sun was not yet quite down when I traversed the field path near the top of the deep cutting. I would extend my walk for an hour, I said to myself, half an hour on and half an hour back, and it would then be time to go to my signalman's box. Before pursuing my stroll, I stepped to the brink. I mechanically looked down from the point from which I had first seen him. I cannot describe the thrill that seized upon me when, close at the mouth of the tunnel, I saw the appearance of a man, with his left sleeve across his eyes, passionately waving his right arm. The nameless horror that oppressed me passed in a moment, for in a moment I saw that this appearance of a man was a man indeed, and that there was a little group of other men standing at a short distance, to whom he seemed to be rehearsing the gesture he made. The danger light was not yet lighted. Against its shaft, a little low hut, entirely new to me, had been made of some wooden supports and tarpaulin. What? It looked no bigger than a bed. With an irresistible sense that something was wrong, with a flashing self-reproachful fear that fatal mischief had come of my leaving the man there, and causing no one to be sent to overlook or correct what he did, I descended the notched path with all the speed I could make. "What is the matter?" I asked the man. "Signal man killed this morning, sir." "Not the man belonging to that box?" "Yes, sir." "Not the man I know." "You will recognize him, sir, if you knew him." said the man who spoke for the hour, solemnly uncovering his own head and raising an end of the tarpaulin, for his face is quite composed. "Oh, how did this happen? How did this happen?" I asked, turning from one to another as the hut closed in again. "He was cut down by an engine, sir. No man in England knew his work better, but somehow he was not clear of the outer rail. It was just at broad day. He had struck the light and had the lamp in his hand. As the engine came out of the tunnel, his back was towards her, and she cut him down. That man drove her and was showing how it happened. Show me, gentleman Tom." The man who wore a rough dark dress stepped back to his former place at the mouth of the tunnel. "Coming round the curve in the tunnel, sir," he said. "I saw him at the end, like as if I saw him down a perspective glass. There was no time to check speed, and I knew him to be very careful, and he didn't seem to take heed of the whistle. I shut it off when we were running down upon him, and called him as loud as I could call. What did you say?" "I said, 'Below there! Look out, for God's sake, clear the way.'" I startled. It was a dreadful time, sir. I never left off calling to him. I put this arm before my eyes not to see, and I waved this arm to the last, but it was no use. Without prolonging the narrative, to dwell on any of its curious circumstances more than on any other, I may, in closing it, point out the coincidence that the warning of the engine driver included not only the words which the unfortunate signalman had repeated to me as haunting him, but also the words which I myself, not he, had attached, and that only in my own mind, to the gesticulation he had imitated. Bum bum bum. Bro, did anybody fucking get any of that? I'm so sorry. The sentence structure in this one is so weird. I kept being like, oh my god, I don't know where this sentence is going. Hello, nonsense, how are you? Basically, a man has died. This is Charles Dickens. In conclusion, a man is dead. The end. It's very something. Yeah, this is Dickens. I'm so lost. Not a fan of this one. Okay, so basically, this man sees another man down. So this man works in a tunnel of a railway as a signalman, right? And this other man starts talking to him, and he screams to him like, "Hello, below there," or whatever. And the guy's like, "I see this ghost in the tunnel, and every time I see him, something bad happens, like an accident on the railway. And now I've been seeing him again, so something bad is going to happen." And then basically he dies. And you know how the driver said that because he said that he saw the ghost was waving, saying keep clear, you know, whatever it was, look out or something like that, right? Clear the way. And the ghost was holding his, like, covering his eyes with his arm. And then they say that the driver of the train covered his eyes with his arm because he didn't want to see himself running over him. So it's like all, like, you know, foreshadowing or whatever. Should I bet cringy creepypasta stories? I don't want to. They low-key killed me. I tried reading them today to choose which ones I wanted to read, and they low-key like ended me. It was crazy in there. He saw the future. Thanks for dumbing it down. I think my reading definitely played a part in it not being very clear. I kept, like, stuttering. I fucking kept stuttering. And because the sentence structure was so fucking confusing. I was like, huh? Huh? Me the whole time, huh? Charles Dickens is just like that. I kind of understood it, but yeah. It's actually really interesting because it's very good when you read it. I feel like it's one of those stories that, like, when you read it again, you see, like, all the things that come in later and you're like, oh, I see, that's what it meant. This is like one of those good foreshadowing stories that you can reread and you'll be like, oh, okay, that's really cool. Thank you so much for 16 months. Holly, I was like, I don't know why, but at first I was like, nonsense, and then I was like, that's not nonsense, and then I was like, Hilly, and then I was like, that's not what we call her. I'm sorry, my brain is shutting off at this point. Thank you. I believe all of these were serialized, so it was easier to forget about the issues when you had to wait for the next newspaper in order to read it weekly. Oh wow, that's crazy. It does make it more relatable when teachers and students are both somewhat confused. Me when I read a chapter and start the next one next month. What a mood. Reading Charles Dickens just melts brains. Alright, it's 10 p.m. So we could do one more. Are we up for another Edgar Allan Poe story? It's not very long. I think it's going to take like 20 minutes and then... and then I die! By the way, I gotta tell you guys. Today, I have just been fighting with the fucking printer all day to print the stupid shipping labels to send the fucking merch. That has been my day. The printer gave me like all stages of grief. Okay? I do not know. Also, I lied on the customs declarations for all of them. Do you think it's gonna be okay? I was like, yeah, this package just has one notebook in it. Look, I'm not about to make you people pay customs. It's gonna be fine. I've lied on customs declarations before. It worked out. It's gonna be okay, guys. Just crop this part of the stream so that there's no evidence. Don't mess with the German customs. Maybe the ones that go to Germany I should be honest on. The American ones not so much. American customs, I never had problems with them. Yeah, German customs are kind of wild from what I've heard. Okay, I'll remake the German custom declarations, but the other ones should be okay. They'll never not. This is gonna be fine, guys. It's okay. I'm gonna be careful with the German ones. Everyone should be okay. Anyways, let's read the Edgar Allan Poe story number 2. Happy Halloween for real this time. Happy Halloween, Presswell. Thank you so much for 14 months. Thank you. Okay, so now we've got me dying somewhere. Let me just have some more water. We will be reading another Edgar Allan Poe story called The Mask of the Red Death. This one actually like really spooked me when I read it ages ago. But it's not that scary now that I reread it. But when I read it when I was like 12, I was like, wow, that is spooky. This one and one other one kind of spooked me. I don't remember which one it was. I don't think it was the Black Cat one. I'm not so sure. Okay. Hello, Pressville. Custom sending back a bomb to the sender would be such a German thing. Who's sending bombs? Nobody's sending any fucking bombs. What are you guys talking about? Stop it. Bro, my hand is so fucking hot from being inside the puppet. Nobody understands the pain of being a puppeteer. People are like, oh, it's so easy to be a puppeteer. Easiest job in the world. Wrong! Nobody has ever said those words out loud, but wrong! Alright. This one shouldn't be too long, and then after that we shall wrap up, because I need to wake up early tomorrow and print more shipping labels. And apparently remake custom declarations. I don't know. It's okay, if they send it back, I'll just send it again. Okay. It is very easy, you wrong! Have to wake up early tomorrow, too. Yeah. I need to get ready for my convention and stuff as well. I wanna like get all the shipping labels done tomorrow morning, so that then we could just send the packages tomorrow. Hopefully tomorrow we can send the packages. We'll see how it goes though. Alright. Now we're gonna be reading The Mask of Red Death. Oh god, hold up. Oh, my microphone. Help. Okay, there you go. The Red Death has long devastated the country. No... I already found a word I don't know. It's only like the 5th word in this sentence. Pestilence. Pestilence? Bruh. I can so- oh my god, help! I can do this, guys. The Red Death has long devastated the country. No pestilence. Stop! Pestilence! Pestilence? Ah! I'm obsessed doing the FNAF jump scare of Puppet Lera. I think it's really... I'm gonna have to make like those like subtle foreshadowing videos about the Puppet Lera. Just like, her just doing... The Red Death has... Ah! Long devastated the country. Ah! Pestilence. Pestilence? This is why Puppet Lera is the best. Why? Care to elaborate? Brother, that clump looks so menacing. It's just half of his face. The later it gets, the more out of it is my reading, okay? This is like the last story we were reading. I'm like losing it at this point, okay? Don't expect too much from me. Pestilence. 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 Okay, whatever. She's so animated. Well, you know what? I worked hard on the Life 2D of the other ones. They were good for the time. It's not my fault the industry is constantly getting higher standards. Luckily, there's no puppet VTuber industry, so I'm pretty much at the top. Fucking dies. Anyways. The Red Death, she says for the 5th time today, has long devastated the country. No pestilence had been ever so fatal or so hideous. Blood was its avalour and its seal. The redness and the horror of blood. There were sharp pains and sudden dizziness, and then profuse bleedings at the pores, with dissolution. The scarlet stains upon the body, and especially upon the face of the victim, were the pest ban, which shut him out from the aid and from the sympathy of his fellow men, and the whole seizure, progress, and termination of the disease were the incidents of half an hour. But the Prince Prospero was happy and dauntless and sagacious, when his dominions were half depopulated. He summoned to his presence 1,000 hale and light-hearted friends from among the knights and dames of his court, and with these retired to the deep seclusion of one of his castellated abbeys. This was an extensive and magnificent structure, the creation of the prince's own eccentric yet august taste. A strong and lofty wall girded it in. This wall had gates of iron. The courtiers, having entered, brought furnaces and massy hammers and welded the bolts. They resolved to leave means neither of ingress or egress to the sudden impulses of despair from without or of frenzy from within. The abbey was amply provisioned. With such precautions, the courtiers might bid defiance to contagion. The external world could take care of itself. In the meantime, it was folly to grieve or to think. The prince had provided all the appliances of pleasure. There were buffoons, there were improvisatory, there were ballet dancers, there were musicians, there were cards, there was beauty, there was wine. And these and security were within, without was the Red Death. It was towards the close of the 5th or 6th month of his seclusion, and while the pestilence raged most furiously abroad, that the Prince Prospero entertained his 1,000 friends at a masked ball of the most unusual magnificence. It was a voluptuous scene, that masquerade. But first, let me tell of the rooms in which it was held. There were 7, an imperial suite. In many palaces, however, such suites form a long and straight vista, while the folding doors slide back nearly to the walls on either hand, so that the view of the whole extent is scarcely impeded. Here the case was very different, as might have been expected from the Duke's love of the bizarre. The apartments were so irregularly disposed that the vision embraced but little more than one at a time. There was a sharp turn at every 20 or 30 yards, and at each turn a novel effect. To the right and left, in the middle of each wall, a tall and narrow Gothic window looked out upon a closed corridor which pursued the windings of the suite. These windows were of stained glass, whose color varied in accordance with the prevailing hue of the decorations of the chamber into which it opened. That at the eastern extremity was hung, for example, in blue, and vividly blue were its windows. The second chamber was purple in its ornaments and tapestries, and here the panes were purple. The third was green throughout, and so were the casements. The fourth was furnished and lightened with orange, the 5th with white, the 6th with violet. The 7th apartment was closely shrouded in black velvet tapestries that hung all over the ceiling and down the walls, falling in heavy folds upon a carpet of the same material and hue. But in this chamber only, the color of the windows failed to correspond to the decorations. The panes were scarlet, a deep blood color. Now in no one of 7 apartments was there any lamp or candelabrum, amid the profusion of golden ornaments that lay scattered to and fro or depended from the roof. There was no light of any kind emanating from lamp or candle within this suite of chambers. But in the corridors that followed the suite, there stood, opposite to each window, a heavy tripod, bearing a brazier of the fire that projected its rays through the tinted glass and so glaringly illumined the room. And thus were produced a multitude of gaudy and fantastic appearances. But in the western or black chamber, the effect of the firelight was streamed upon the dark hangings through the blood-tinted panes. Was ghastly in the extreme, and produced so wild a look upon the countenances of those who entered, that there were few of the company bold enough to set foot within the precincts at all. It was in this apartment also that there stood against the western wall a gigantic clock of ebony. Its pendulum swung to and fro with a dull, heavy, monotonous clang, and when its minute hand made the circuit of the face and the hour was to be stricken, there came forth from the brazen lungs of the clock a sound which was clear and loud and deep and exceedingly musical, but of so peculiar a note and emphasis that at each lapse of an hour the musicians in the orchestra were constrained to pause momently in their performance to hearken to the sound, and thus the waltzers perforce ceased their evolutions, and there was a brief disconcert of the whole gay company. And while the chimes of the clock yet rang, it was observed that the giddiest grew pale, and that the more aged and seated passed their hands over their brows as if confused reverie or meditation. But when the echoes had fully ceased, a light laughter at once pervaded the assembly. The musicians looked at each other and smiled, as if at their own nervousness and folly, and made whispering vows, each to the other, that the next chiming the clock should produce in them no similar emotion. And then, after the lapse of 60 minutes, which embraced 3,600 seconds of the time that flies, there came yet another chiming of the clock, and then there was same disconcert and tremulousness and meditation as before. But, in spite of these things, it was a gay and magnificent revel. The tastes of the Duke were peculiar. He had a fine eye for colors and effect. He disregarded the decor of mere fashion. His plans were bold and fiery, and his conceptions glowed with barbaric luster. There are some who would have thought him mad. His followers felt that he was not. It was necessary to hear and see and touch him to be sure that he was not. He had directed, in great part, the movable embellishments of the 7 chambers upon occasion of this great fete? I don't even know this word. And it was his own guiding taste which had given character to the costumes of the masqueraders. Be sure they were grotesque. They were much of glare and glitter and piquancy and phantasm, much of what has been since seen in Hernani. There were arabesque figures with unsuited limbs and appointments. There were delirious fancies such as the madman fashions. There was much of the beautiful, much of the wanton, much of the bizarre, something of the terrible, and not a little of that which might have excited disgust. To and fro, in the 7 chambers, were stalked, in fact, a multitude of dreams, and these, the dreams, rivered in and about, taking hue from the rooms and causing the wild music of the orchestra to seem as the echo of their steps. And, anon, there strikes the ebony clock which stands in the hall of the velvet, and then momently all is still and all is silent save the voice of the clock. The dreams are stiff froze as they stand, but the echoes of the chime die away. They have endured but an instant, and the light, half-subdued laughter floats after them as they depart. And now again the music swells, and the dreams live, and riff to and fro, more merrily than ever, taking cue from the many-tinted windows through which stream the rays from the tripods. But to the chamber which lies most westwardly of the 7, there are now none of the maskers who venture, for the night is waning away, and there flows a ruddier light through the blood-colored panes, and the blackness of the sable drapery appalls. And to him whose foot falls upon the sable carpet, there comes from the near clock of ebony a muffled peal more solemnly emphatic than any which reaches their ears, who indulge in the more remote gaieties of the other apartments. But these other apartments were densely crowded, and in them beat feverishly the heart of life. And the revel went whirringly on until at length was sounded the 12th hour upon the clock. And then the music ceased, as I have told, and the evolutions of the waltzers were quieted, and there was an uneasy cessation of all things as before. But now there were 12 strokes to be sounded by the bell of the clock. And thus it happened, perhaps, that more of thought crept, with more of time, into the meditations of the thoughtful among those who revelled. And thus again, it happened perhaps, that before the last echoes of the last chime had utterly sunk into silence, there were many individuals in the crowd who had found leisure to become aware of the presence of a masked figure, which had arrested the attention of no single individual before. And the rumor of this new presence having spread itself whisperingly around, there arose at length from the whole company a buzz or murmur, expressive at first of disapprobation and surprise, then finally of terror, of horror and disgust. In an assembly of phantasms such as I have painted, it may well be supposed that no ordinary appearance could have excited such sensation. In truth, the masquerade license of the night was nearly unlimited, but the figure in question had out-Heroded her and gone beyond the bounds of even the definite decorum. There are chords in the hearts of the most reckless, which cannot be touched without emotion. Even of the utterly lost, to whom life and death are equally jests, there are matters of which no jest can be properly made. The whole company, indeed, seemed how deeply to feel that in the costume and bearing of the stranger neither wit nor propriety existed. The figure was tall and gaunt, and shrouded from head to foot in the habiliments of the grave. The mask which concealed the visage was made so nearly to resemble the countenance of a stiffened corpse that the closest scrutiny must have had difficulty in detecting the cheat. And yet all this might have been endured, if not approved, by the mad revelers around. But the mummer had gone so far as to assume the type of the Red Death. His vesture was dabbled in blood, and his broad brow, with all the features of the face, was besprinkled with the scarlet horror. When the eyes of the Prince Prospera fell upon this spectral image, which with a slow and solemn movement, as if more fully to sustain its rôle, stalked to and fro among the waltzers, he was seen to be convulsed, in the first moment, with a strong shudder, either of terror or distance, but in the next, his brow reddened with rage. "Who dares," he demanded hoarsely of the group and stood around him, "who dares thus to make mockery of our vows? Uncase the varlet that we may know whom we have to hang tomorrow at sunrise on the battlements? Will no one stir at my bidding? Stop him, and strip him, I say, of those reddened vestures of sacrilege." It was in the eastern of blue chamber, in which stood the Prince Prospera, as he uttered these words. They rang throughout the 7 rooms loudly and clearly, for the prince was bold and robust man, and the music had become hushed at the waving of his hand. It was in the blue room... Wait. No, that's right. It was in the blue room where stood the prince, with a group of pale courtiers by his side. At first, as he spoke, there was a slight rushing movement of this group in the direction of the intruder, who at the moment was also near at hand, and now, with deliberate and straggly step, made closer approach to the speaker. But from a certain nameless awe, with which the mad assumptions of the murmur had inspired the whole party, there were found none who put forth hand to seize him, so that, unimpeded, he passed within a yard of the prince's person, and while the vast assembly, as if with one impulse, shrank from the centres of the rooms to the walls, he made his way uninterruptedly, but with the same solemn and measured step which had distinguished him from the first, through the blue chamber to the purple, through the purple to the green, through the green to the orange, through this again to the white, and even thence to the violet, ere... Oh my god, please, Lera. Please, Lera, stop losing the line you're on. Ere a decided movement had been made to arrest him. It was then, however, that the Prince Prospera, maddening with rage and the shame of his own momentary cowardice, rushed hurriedly through the 6 chambers, while none followed him on account of a deadly terror that had seized upon all. He bore aloft a drawn dagger, and had approached, in rapid impetuosity, to within 3 or 4 feet of the retreating figure, when the latter, having attained the extremity of the velvet apartment, turned suddenly round and confronted his pursuer. There was a sharp cry, and the dagger dropped gleaming upon the sable carpet, upon which, instantly afterwards, fell prostrate in death the Prince Prospera. Then, summoning the wild courage of despair, a throng of the revelers at once threw themselves into the black apartment, and seizing the mummer, whose tall figure stood erect and motionless within the shadow of the ebony clock, gasped in unutterable horror at finding the grave cerement and corpse-like mask which they handed with so violent a rudeness, untenanted by any tangible form. And now was acknowledged the presence of the Red Death. He had come like a thief in the night, and one by one dropped the revelers in the blood-bedewed halls of their revel. and died each in a despairing posture of his fall. And the life of the ebony clock went out with that of the last of the gay, and the flames of the tripods expired, and darkness and decay and the red death held illimitable dominion over all. Done. Someone get this guy. This guy's gonna get everybody instead. Oh my god. I lived, bitch. I did it. I lived. That was like so unnecessary hard. This guy seems pretty cool. The Red Death seems pretty cool. Okay, I need some water. I did it. I read 4 stories. Hell yeah. Dies. Oh no, I caught the Red Death. Blech. High literature from Mrs. Tigre. Oh no, right? This will never happen again. I hope you enjoyed that. This will never happen again. That is like way too much effort, and I think people only listen to like 5% of what I was saying. It wasn't worth it. English is hard, it is. Like for no fucking reason too. Like literally. Oh, there's a movie? I didn't even know. Will we get a clicker puppet Lera costume? I don't think so. I'll literally watch these. Can you read whose phone? Aaron, I looked that up like today and I didn't find anything but memes and I was really confused. People were just like, yeah, this is a meme, and I was like, what? Was this a lie? Was I set up? Are they taking advantage of the fact that I don't know any horror stories? I don't know. I'm very confused. The story is the meme. But why? Whose phone is a classic? What do you guys? How do you guys all know about this? Is it just me or like the Duckult is like? I feel like every time I look at him, he's like further and further like this. He just kind of goes. I'm watching you, bitch. I'm watching you. Hand hook car door is good too. What the fuck are you talking about? Is that a real English sentence? What are you saying? Speak English, please. Unbelievable. But anyways, with this, Spooktober is actually officially over. Thank fucking god, I'm done. I'm done with all the nightmares that I had to live through this month. It's been a weirdly long and also weirdly short and busy month somehow. It both passed really quickly and it also felt like forever at the same time. I don't know how to explain it, but yes, that happened. They called Duckult the Yellow Death in college. Because he slowly like runs out of light. Just checking if we're still passing the Halloween wipe check. He's just checking if you guys are still... He's just checking if you guys are still fucking listening to what I'm saying. But yeah. I really wanted to do a Halloween like karaoke as well, and just like lots of spooky songs, but I couldn't fit it into October, and also I have this cough if you haven't noticed. I bet you guys noticed. So I'm gonna try doing a Halloween karaoke like sometime in November maybe, but we're gonna have to see. I still really want to do it. I have a bunch of like really fucked up songs that I really want to sing. I gotta share these really fucked up songs with you guys. You gotta understand. But other than that, Spooktober is officially over. Yay! I lived. I lived, bitch. Thank you for the spooky vibes on the Halloween. Thank you so much for the super chat, Alex. Thank you. I can't sleep tonight. Lera's story spooked me good. I'm just gonna do the FNAF jump scare when you least expect it. Did you expect that one? I don't know. Spooktober, my beloved. It's finally over. Now it's time for Christmas! You guys know what fucking time it is now? You guys know what we are doing now? Now that October is basically over? Oh. Would you believe it? Give me 1 second. I can't wait to listen to this again to have something comfy to sleep to. Me stuttering? Do you enjoy the sound of somebody stuttering? Does that make you fall asleep better? Ah yes. Another day of listening to someone die to the English language. Okay, hold up. It's still Halloween for a few more hours here. No, it's not. Don't be ridiculous. It's Christmas! It's Christmas time! Babe, wake up! It's November almost. It's Christmas. It is time! It's Christmas! Oh man. I can't find it. It's been too long. I was gonna pull out the gingerbread Lera, but it's been too long. I don't know how to like get her to work properly. But don't worry, I have time. Can I at least keep Mariah Carey frozen? All I want for me, it's not even that song. The song that haunts me is The Last Christmas I Gave You My Heart. That song, like, actually, like, I want it gone. I want it dead. I want to delete it forever. Like, just like somebody needs to like hack into every single like music, like store, streaming service, anything, just delete it forever. Destroy all the records and CDs and all copies of it ever created. Like, I need the Last Christmas I Gave You My Heart, whatever song, gone forever. Gingerbread Lera has gotten moldy. No, it's okay. She was in the freezer the whole time. She's fine. You cursing English just soothes the souls because it's so true. Christmas classics like Die Hard. I still can't comprehend that Die Hard is a fucking Christmas movie. I didn't know that until like last year. I've never seen them. My mom is the— oh my god. My mom is the Die Hard fan, not me. Not me. But I had no idea it was like a Christmas movie. Americans are wild and their Christmas movies are fucking like action-ass Hollywood movies. Russian New Year movies are literally just like the cheesiest shit you'll ever see in your life. Wonderful Christmas movie. There's like some new Christmas movie coming out now and I keep seeing posters for it. It also looks like very Die Hardy, you know? Like it's like, oh, they're trying to get another action movie and make it a classic, but no, we all know that's not gonna work. Anyways, let me pull out Puppet Lera to say goodbye. Bye-bye, guys. I will see you next week. I have a convention this weekend. Manifest lots of money my way, please. Thank you. Also, my commissions are open. I'm so poor, you don't understand. Help. Bye-bye, everybody. I will see you next week. Runs away. Runs away. Runs away. Where is the end screen? Goodbye.